Now, the White House has released President Donald Trump's new national security strategy, and the document is already sending political shockwaves through Europe. In the quietly released document, Washington characterizes Europe as an over-regulated, censorious continent, lacking self-confidence and facing what it calls civilizational erasure due to immigration. The strategy accuses Europe of taking advantage of U.S.'s generosity and failing to take charge of its own destiny. Now, at one point, the document warns the continent will be unrecognizable in 20 years or even before that. Moreover, the document criticizes Europe's immigration policies, declining birth rates, and what it called censorship of speech and suppression of political opposition. Now, the strategy claims that European governments are subverting democratic processes and ignoring the public desire for peace, particularly when it comes to the war in Ukraine. It says the war in Ukraine has left Europe's relationship with Russia deeply attenuated and warns that managing those tensions will require U.S. diplomacy to restore strategic stability. Now, German Foreign Minister Johann Vadeful slammed Washington and said that the country does not need outside advice. Now, according to Reuters, the United States wants Europe to take over the majority of NATO's conventional defense capabilities, from intelligence to missiles, by 2027. But the European officials have slammed the deadline and called it unrealistic. Now, correspondent Susan Terani has sent us this report from New York to give us more details.
President Trump's 2025 national security strategy lays out the clearest articulation of what analysts are calling the second-term Trump doctrine, a worldview that rejects traditional alliance structures in favor of hard-edge, interest-based hierarchy. The strategy pointedly rebukes Europe, accusing it of having unrealistic expectation when it comes to Ukraine and warning that demographic and cultural pressures threaten its long-term stability. In essence, it signals that Europe is no longer the center of U.S. strategic gravity and must assume responsibility for its own security. It also frames China not as an abstract global competitor, but as a direct challenger to American influence in the Americas. On India, the strategy is far more welcoming. It portrays New Delhi as indispensable to the Indo-Pacific balance of power, calling for deeper defense as well as counterterrorism cooperation and expanded commercial ties as well. A clear indication that India is one of the few major powers that the Trump doctrine sees as a long-term strategic asset and not a liability. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World is One.